And we're live. So this is the first Streams working group meeting for io.js. Um, I'm joined by Calvin Metcalf, Dominic Danicola, Matthias Boost, Sam Newman, and myself. I'm Chris Dickinson. Michael may be joining later. Isaac's, I don't know why I always call him plural Isaac, but he sends his apologies. He'll be joining the next meeting. So this being the first meeting, there's nothing to go over from prior meetings, so that moves things right along. So the agenda for today, we have 4 things, unless anybody would like to add anything else. We have adopt a charter, so that's 105, and there's Michael. Hi, Michael. We have simpler stream creation from Sam. We have the deprecate implicit flowing of streams from myself. And we have release and versioning strategy from Rod. I went kind of out of order there because the bulleted list didn't line up correctly. But okay, so getting started, adopting a charter. I guess either myself or Michael can go through and explain what this means.
Okay. Yeah. So we're still like committing the initial kind of working group concept, but the basic idea is that once you have a working group, they're totally autonomous, and the responsibility at that point for this list of things that are happening aren't in the TC anymore. They're actually in this group, and nobody from the TC can butt in and be like, do it this way. But at the same time, if the if the working group go off the rails, that they're like way off the reservation, the TC can just revoke the charter, and then all of the responsibility falls back on them. So the idea is that you give the people have autonomy for the work that they're doing, and the only way to sort of tell them to do something else is to take on all of the work yourself, which I don't think the TC ever wants to do. The TC is very invested in not doing a huge set of tasks that they don't want to work on. So yeah, that's basically it. There's a pull request. I need to clean it up, and then I'm sure there's a section in there right now for streams that is not accurate, so I'm sure that Chris will update it with this.
Cool. Thanks for the explanation. Has everyone taken a look at that issue, or is this like new news? Okay. Anybody have any thoughts on it? Anything that they would like to change, or is this kind of what we want to go forward with proposing to the larger io.js TC? Oh, I think you're muted, Sam.
It seems quite reasonable to me.
Cool. Awesome. It seems like +1s are all around, so I will note that. And moving on to the next topic, release and versioning strategy. How do we do it? So unless anyone would like to take this, I can explain, just kind of give an overview of the issue. Okay. So we need to figure out who we're pulling from, what major versions those are going into, what our versioning scheme should be going forward, whether we just bump to 3.0. How do we manage releases in conjunction with merging code upstream to io.js, and how do we deal with joint node streams? Whether we keep pulling from them, or if we just dictate the world for io.js.
Is this where there was talk on the about whether we should be pulling from them or they should be pulling from us and making it dependent? That Node depends on.
This is talk of so that's work to be done. Kind of like implicitly got agreed on by the TC. This is whether we how do we approach versioning with regards to that,
All right.
and whether or not we keep trying to pull in changes from joint node. So I guess we can break this down into a couple topics. Versioning scheme opinions. Do we just bump to 3.0 for what we're doing now and call it good so we can freeze the earlier Semper versions?
That seems pretty reasonable. I haven't heard any other sort of proposals.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea because we refer to streams 2 or streams 3, and by having Semper versioning numbering, it's kind of, I don't know, it kind of lines up with that. So.
So my take is generally we should just be evolving this completely on our own, and if there happens to be a patch over in some other streams library, perhaps under the name joint streams, then we should see if that applies and is a good idea and maybe pull it. But it's our project.
Okay. So bumping the Semper major to indicate that we're making breaking changes from this point, but being receptive to pulling in patches. Cool. That sounds reasonable to me. So I'll note that we've got +1s for bumping to 3, pulling in patches where appropriate. Do we want to coordinate? I mean, I think based on your answer, I can kind of extrapolate, but do we want to coordinate our releases with io.js? What's included in io.js?
No, that's interesting. I mean, I guess like we should make sure that what we're doing works for that. Like. Yeah. Okay. No, I don't. I guess I'll let other people speak because I'm not sure the answer.
Sorry, I just joined the call twice, but I don't know how to leave.
You get 2 votes now.
There's a giant hang-up icon at the top of your screen with a red leave call.
Yeah, I wanna leave it from my phone though.
And Tim is joining us as well. Hello, Tim.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing well. So what we're talking about now is how we want to deal with releases in terms of what goes into io.js. When do we bump versions when it goes into io.js? Do we version independently and then recommend specific versions to go in?
So I guess one thing is that a major version change post will sort of imply a major version change of io.js. So we're going to need some coordination. So if they, on that aspect of it, because the changes we can push are going to be less than whatever changes they're doing. We can't, put a minor release into their patch.
So to me, the best way to handle this is actually just to basically when a version of a readable stream seems stable enough, and this group is confident releasing it, you basically just recommend it to go into io.js, and then the TC handles it. Because I don't think that the TC is going to want to like cede all control of being like, hey, maybe we don't want this huge API break and things like that. And also, that'll get rolled into whatever semver change needs to happen. So if there's a major one on the way, like they'll just put it in that, or maybe they'll do a major one because it's going in if there is a major change.
Probably also just want to keep open communication channels, maybe just around major version breaks is the idea. So, if we're considering pulling in a major version break, or if we're just deciding that we want to, we definitely want to be communicating that as early as possible.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we should be a little bit more free to experiment with that kind of stuff and take changes and work them out. And then once we're confident, we can suggest a new version to io.js with a change log of like, these are the things that happen, these are the breaks, that kind of stuff. And we can be really confident there's not more than that because we've had a few release cycles of it, right?
That seems very sensible.
Cool. So version independently, suggesting versions, but work with the TC in advance to keep them abreast of changes, especially major breaking ones. Is that accurate? Cool. Thanks. Okay, so the next thing on our agenda, simpler stream creation, which Sam proposed in issues 102, and he's got a PR up stubbing in that functionality. Well, not really stubbing in, implementing. So, yeah.
I was just going to say, yeah, it's really, really simple. So I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the best implementation. As I said, it's kind of more to prompt discussion, really, about, because it seemed like that thread got a lot of attention from you guys about different ideas that you have. So I don't know, just kind of open the floor, really, because everyone seems to have interesting ideas, and we can probably put them all together to come up with something awesome. So.
Okay.
I guess the thing is, like, so streams themselves, like, to me, using prototypal inheritance isn't a big deal, but I think a lot of people don't really know what they're doing particularly, especially people when they kind of adopt Gulp and things like that to do their build stuff, and they're using streams, but they're not really quite sure what they're doing, and by giving them an avenue to create them in a more easy way without them necessarily having to understand the internal implementation could be of benefit to them. But I mean, that's really kind of where my suggestion came from. But in terms of actual implementation and where we want to go forward with that, I guess that's something we all have ideas on and we should all discuss, really.
So I think it's interesting, just looking at the PR, it does the most simple thing imaginable, and it's pretty nice. Like, it's like, okay, well, cool, now I can stop creating a subclass every time I want to create a stream. However, Chris raises a good point, which is that, you know, if we wanted to use this as an opportunity to make different, like, changes to the model, where, for example, you know, he's saying we could add a start and a pull function separately instead of a single read function, and we could use that as a jumping off point for other changes, as long as you use that style instead of the read style. So now it's like, okay, well, now I'm not as sure if the simple solution is what we want.
Yeah, well, oh, sorry, you go.
So I think that there's basically two things. There's the sort of simple thing of, can we do this on top of what we're currently doing in a backwards compatible way, and then can we do this in a way that starts sort of merging the functionality of current streams and Whatwig streams. You know, I don't think that there's anything wrong with the simple one, and it isn't necessarily going to preclude doing the more full one later. I guess what my take on that was.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, you know, even just from a name point of view, right now, you know, it's applying the thing in question that Chris raised is readable stream. So right now you supply read in the pull request as it is, but in the future we could say you supply start and pull, and, you know, just branch. So I don't think it's backwards incompatible. So I guess my take is, you know, given that point, I think it's kind of nice we could just try this. I don't really see it being a problem, and it is nice. It's a nice start, certainly, towards convergence if that's a goal, but just giving people a new capability in and of itself.
Does that key resolution apply to both the writable and transform streams as well? In that they don't conflict with what WG streams are doing?
Yeah, I should probably look at it in a little more detail just to make sure. But I mean, I think it seems pretty similar. I mean, yeah, writable and transform are pretty much modeled. Like, those are the simpler streams, so they're pretty. The design is pretty naturally the same in WG streams, from what I believe node streams with their subclass pattern have. So I'll check and try and make sure that it's the same exactly, but it looks very similar.
Cool. So if everything works out, I'm definitely +1 on bringing that in. If it doesn't preclude us from.
Yeah. So maybe just put an action item on me to like write up the exact correlation and just make sure, and then I'll chime in and say, yep, looks good, or oh wait.
Cool. Will do. Noted in the docs.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm not really opposed if there are ideas to expand on that or do something different. Then, you know, obviously it gets us towards that end goal, and there's no reason why we shouldn't focus on that more so. It's just obviously kind of as a suggestion. So.
No, I'm really happy with like you just took charge and showed everyone that it was actually really easy to get the base level functionality in. So I think we should take advantage of that. So
+1.
Cool.
Okay. So the next thing on our list is the deprecate implicit flowing of streams, which is in 99, which we may want to delay like decisive action on until Isaac can join in because he has some fairly strong opinions about it. But I proposed this a while back, and the idea is that we would deprecate the implicit flow when a user adds a data listener, which would also the knock-on effects of this would be that pipe would no longer implicitly, well, we'd have to change how pipe implicitly flows, or decide if we want pipe to implicitly flow, which I think most people are kind of leaning towards yes. And users would have to call resume instead of on data. So again, kind of opening this up to the floor, it seems like to paraphrase Isaac's argument poorly, this could break code for end users. This would be a major change. And he's not sure that auto-flowing would be a net reduction in surprise for users. So whether it's too ideological of a change or for what it actually does for the effect it has.
So I have a few things here. First, in general, I agree with Isaac, and it's probably not worth breaking backwards compat, but maybe, and you can tell me if you want to take this offline and help explain it to me in a different context, but I don't quite understand some of the issues involved here, so I'd appreciate like if somebody wants to help me out. So let's say you create the stream, and so my understanding is it's an undefined state. What does that actually mean? Like, is data being put into the stream and you don't know about it, or how is it different from paused? If not, I'm confused.
So a stream in undefined flowing state is basically the same as paused, except that when you add a data listener, it will start flowing.
Okay, whereas if it's paused and you add a data listener, it won't.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah,
So
there's a kind of try
interesting.
state there.
So
There's like it's either null or true or false.
Yeah. So this is a little interesting. So the design I have in WebG streams currently is it starts flowing. You never lose data, but you have to call read. But immediately we start pulling data from the underlying source until the high watermark is hit. So that's in node streams. If you just create the stream, there's no data being pulled at all.
No. So hold on, you got to separate between old streams and new streams, right? So old style with data listener, when you created it, it started flowing immediately. And it didn't matter if you added a data listener or anything. You actually had to go and pause it in order to get it to stop. New style streams opened in kind of a pause state, like when they were created.
Okay.
Then when they were piped, or you really just start calling reads and So I'm actually unclear what code this would break, because if you have the if-def in there for if somebody explicitly paused it, don't start when this data listener happens. And if you're adding a data listener, you're using old style streams, right? So it used to open just fucking going. So I don't see like where we break stuff. Maybe you can explain that, Chris.
So there's a little nuance there, because there are two versions of streams in the wild, streams 1 streams and the streams 2 or 3 streams, and all the versions of readable stream. Streams 1 streams do not have a resume property. They just don't have that method at all. So in lieu of using resume, people were using on data to act as resume. And to the point of flowing data, streams don't really. It depends on the specific implementation of a streams 2 or 3 stream, whether or not it'll open up and start flowing the underlying source. For example, Socket does, but some other streams don't.
So wait a second. Original streams had a resume method.
The only method that Streams 1 promised was pipe, if I recall correctly.
Like the underlying pipe implementation calls pause and resume though.
If they're available.
Yeah, I mean, but they have to be if you actually want to flow or not. Like, I mean, I don't know of a stream that didn't have them that worked.
UDP streams probably, since you cannot actually pause a UDP stream.
But I would imagine that the method was probably still there because it subclassed the underlying implementation, didn't it?
I think the problem is that people were creating packages on NPM that were subclassing stream directly and not adding resume.
But I think there's, in general though, like I think I see the backwards incompatibility, which is just like before you'd be able to add a data listener and things would happen, right? Whereas in this pull request, you add a data listener and nothing happens. And I think that's true for both streams 1 and streams 2 streams.
No, that's not accurate. So adding the data listener did not start a stream in streams 1. Creating it started it, and then if you paused it, you needed to like find a way to resume it again. I don't know of an implementation where the only way to resume is to add a data listener, because usually like people add that before they pause it.
Yeah, not the only way, but like there's a lot of code that accepts. It sounds like either streams 2 or streams 3 stream. And they add a data listener, and they expect to be getting data. And they never call resume because adding data is enough. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess it never gets paused or whatever. I don't know. Like, the thing is, like, I mean, I remember streams breaking because they don't have a resume method, right? Like, if the pipe actually hits back pressure and you set it to something that has to pause and resume, then that's going to make its way all the way down, and then you're going to actually throw. I'm pretty sure. Like, I don't think that there's or it's just never going to start up again, right? Like, either way, it's fucking broken. And if people were relying on like some kind of weird, like, I mean, like this isn't even like a documented thing where adding a data listener can restart it, right? Like, this is something that like people just invented in their head, or maybe in like their interpretation of what streaming is.
I think it's documented in the streams 3 docs.
Well, in the stream, maybe we fucking like backported the.
Well, I think that was the big change from streams 2 to streams 3.
Okay, so streams 3, I don't know what. Like, I would understand why you would want to start flowing data again if you added it, because it solves this case with streams 1 where they open flowing. So I get why we changed it and added it. I don't think that I don't get why we would need to worry about these off implementation streams 1 people who probably have broken streams anyway. Like, I'm not too worried about them. I mean, maybe they got fixed by streams 2 or streams 3 because they were just subclassing core, and it's just sort of like automatically got fixed. But when they wrote that and released it on streams 1, I'm not convinced that code worked. At least as well as they thought. I'm sure that it worked like in their tests where they never hit flow, but if you put that in a situation where there's flow control, it's probably going to break. So I'm not too worried about breaking those people.
It is worth mentioning that in Streams 2, I think when you pipe, it actually passes data through using the readable event rather than the data run. So
Yeah. The primary change with Streams 2 to 3 regarding the data event is that in Streams 2, if you added a data listener or I think there was another method, but that's escaping me, it would monkey patch the stream with the original pipe. It would just replace all the methods out, and it would become a Streams 1 stream. In Streams 3, it doesn't do that. The new behavior is whenever data comes out as a result of a .read invocation, that gets emitted as data on the sideband. The only thing remaining there is that we overload the on method so that when you add a data listener or a readable listener, we take different actions based on that. We start flowing the stream.
I think it's actually a good thing to flow the stream on data. Like I'm not arguing against that. I don't know why what the justification is for trying to remove it. Like I think it actually fixes some stuff.
The reason I proposed it was that we have a tri-state that we don't actually explain anywhere in the docs. That's a little hard to explain. I've seen at least a few packages try to work around trying to figure out whether the stream is in a pause state or a flowing state or an undefined state because there's currently no way to get that information.
Right, so I like the pull request to add an is flowing, I think. So I mean I agree that like you don't want to put in the docs like a paragraph explanation of streams actually have 3 states, right? Like that's kind of weird and hopefully nobody cares. But providing that functionality for library authors who do care, that makes the most sense to me.
Cool. The one issue with expanding, because I added an is paused, so an is flowing would give us the proper like Boolean combination of whether or not it's in that undefined state. The only issue with adding those kinds of methods to the actual public interface is that we have multiple classes of streams in the wild, so people won't have the ability to rely on the fact that there is an is flowing or is paused.
Yeah, but everybody should be subclassing the standard ones by now. So like, it's kind of a bug in your library if you're not. And so if somebody's like, "Hey, I tried to use this flowing and it wasn't there," then they should just tell the library author go derive from readable stream.
If they have, well, we've been telling people to peg to readable stream the package, so they might be pegged to a version of readable stream that doesn't have the methods.
Well, tell them to upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so in general, it's a little concerning that we seem to be like documenting basically a bunch of polyfill logic, and the problem that I see with that is that we're documenting all these public methods and what they do, and it's like good to know how things work, but at the same time, it sort of encourages people or maybe makes people confused about what API that they should actually be building to. I mean, just like as a thought experiment here, like say that we were to it would become basically a public API that just says what WG streams. The actual implementation would have all these other fucking crazy methods where we're basically trying to, make the world of older streams implementations, all of them, work inside of this new one. And all of those methods that we publicly document would basically surface sort of state information as well as we can as we're doing these, background kind of polyfill stuff. I don't like that might not even be possible, but that would certainly be like the direction that we would want to go if we want to update the API. We don't want to like continue to just be documenting the crazy hacks that we're doing to make old stuff work.
That's a good point, and I just noticed that in the io.js stream documentation, readable.is paused is under API for stream consumers. Maybe we would want to move this and move that rather, and possibly API rather move is paused and is flowing to like API for people who really need to know the innards of their stream, right? Like probably not something you want most people to use.
Well, like, or we could just have like documents that say like this was the API for streams 1, this was the API for streams 2. So if they run into that code, they can figure out what the hell was trying to go on. But it can all have a lot of information in there about how like don't use this API directly anymore. Use the new one. This is the new API.
But I think in general the idea of having a more reflective API that is kind of around all these crazy polyfill hacks we've used, like that we tell people you probably shouldn't have to use this, but we're keeping it here because you might. What do you think of that kind of idea?
Obviously, I'm for it.
Okay, so the way going forward on this is expose the is paused and is flowing and move those items into a streams for implementers section. +1, -1?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's actually a distinction between implementers and like crazy people. Like most stream implementers should be using the set in the streams for implementers, which is like for readable is like _read and dot push. Like that's it. It's more for like people who are creating crazy stream combinator libraries.
Cool. So new section for mad
reflective.
scientists.
You could call it, yeah, mad scientist, reflective stream access, like that kind of thing.
I'm just wondering though, if it is null, I mean, what state gets returned if it's paused? Would that be false?
That would be false. So what you would have to do is, between is paused and is flowing, if they're both false, then you're in the undefined state. If one is true, then it's that state. If both are true, then your stream has exploded and is probably on fire. Typing.
We could name the third state. That would make things easier if we called it like waiting or like, I don't know, standing behind you about to pounce. I don't know. That might make it easier to explain.
Dominic, just for reference, how many states do what working group streams have?
They have like 4, but they're pretty different than this flowing versus non-flowing thing. Let me see. I think it's starting, waiting, readable, and closed. Yeah.
I mean, is there any reason not to just steal that? Like, I don't know.
It doesn't really help with this flowing versus non-flowing distinction, I think.
Flowing would be reading, and paused would be waiting, but I don't think there's like an initializing.
Right. Yeah, I misspoke. There's no starting state. There's waiting, readable, closed, and errored. Yeah. It's the third state that's missing. Like we have waiting and readable, but we don't, or kind of. Flowing is not necessarily readable. Like it's like will become readable sometime soon. It's pretty orthogonal, I think. That said, I mean, I think it's still a pretty nice little piece of information, so we could add that. But I think that maybe we want to distinguish like the state from, you know, in the what we gstreams sense from the like flowingness.
So wait, so what does waiting mean then? It means that you don't have any data yet to read.
Exactly. Or you've read it all, and you should wait for more. Yeah.
And is the state still waiting when there is data to read?
No, it's readable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's analogous to pause, I guess then. Well,
yeah, nah. It's really about like, it's like a replacement for the, not a replacement for, but it's related to the readable event that Node streams have.
Well, then that basically is pause then. Like, I mean, that actually is, I think, 1-to-1 then. I mean, waiting is basically pause. It means like somebody needs to read this before not again. Like, or you know, readable like needs to happen again.
Yeah. Okay, that's kind of true. I see what you're saying. I think maybe it's a separate issue to expose the dot state in the what we gstream sense, and I think it would probably be a useful API. Although I actually am having a hard time thinking of use cases, but it's a cool API. gives you information.
So Dominic, the reason you'd want that API is to sort of smooth over transitions because you have to use that state to figure out whether you should hit read, while in the Node ones, you just see if you get null back from calling read, which you can't do in the Node.
Right.
Yeah, and if there's like huge mismatches in those states, to the extent that we can't even polyfill for it, like we should figure that out now.
Yeah, we should. So that's, I mean, again, that's a good investigation to make. I really think that it's pretty darn close. Like, I think, yeah. But yeah, again, it's kind of like the thing earlier. Like, somebody should spend the time to like see if it's exact or if it's just really close, and hopefully, like, there are no actual incompatibilities.
So one effort that's going on, driven mostly by Vladimir Kurchakin, is to catalog and remove uses of internal readable state throughout Node. So by the end of that, we should have a pretty exhaustive list of what kind of state needs to be examined by io.js. Sorry, I used the word Node before. Where it's reaching in, where we absolutely need to reach in and manipulate state, because there's a lot of places where we do it, but we don't necessarily need to, and it's done for expedience. So I'll put that issue in chat and note that so we can follow that. That's part of the kind of foundational work for reversing the flow of io.js readable stream, so that we can actually vendor it and actually like subscribe to an API from this repo. And when I say we here, I'm saying TC, we, royal we.
I'm not sure if one of the streams from core actually sets the try state back to null as well. I think I read that.
A few do. There's some particularly horrifying examples of womping on stream state, especially in NetSocket, which you can call connect on a spent stream or a stream in progress, and it'll manually reset all the stream internal state. And I think for some instances like that, the answer is like just don't do that anymore. But there are others where we reset for other purposes. I think also in NetSocket, we reset that listener so that we can add a data listener without actually flowing it. That's actually one of the reasons for the original proposal of like don't flow the data listener, is that it's hard to return a stream that you have added a data listener to and reset to undefined state.
Yeah, I'm not really sure how we would do that, because, yeah, it's like having one method to do one thing and another to do the opposite kind of makes sense, but with three, it's kind of weird.
I suppose that's kind of the follow-on question to the third undefined state, is do we want to actually make it possible to return to that state?
Like I think the goal of getting rid of that third undefined state was noble, and it's probably not worth the backwards incompatibility cost of doing so. But I think we should still like think of it as weird and hide it away in a corner.
So we could totally hide it away in a corner. At least for certain cases, but for stream implementers that need to add a data listener, do we want to add a way to get back there? Like,
I guess I'd have to know more about the exact use cases, but I'm not philosophically opposed to it as long as it's hidden.
okay, we can stub this out in a PR, probably discuss it there, and like in the docs, just surround it with barbed wire and say this is not what you want to do. but it's here.
Couldn't you just always transition to flowing state after attaching a data listener? Like if you attach two data listeners, then also after the second one, go to flowing state. Wouldn't that solve it? If I understand it correctly.
I think that might be possible, but we'd have to start tracking the... Well, I guess we would eliminate that third state because adding a data listener would always flow the state.
Yeah, I'm basically just saying like always implicitly call resume when you add a data listener.
That would eliminate the third state and eliminate any case where, well, no, that wouldn't work because, well, it would break downstream code because if the stream has been explicitly paused before you add a data listener, it won't flow again at present. And if we changed it to always flow on event listener, then that would break client code.
Like if I what code? Oh, so if I pause. Oh, so you mean like if I explicitly call pause and add a data listener afterwards, that would break backwards, right? I see what you're saying. That's kind of a weird case, though.
So isn't that the difference between the third state is that all it does is it does not auto flow when you do for the data listener. That's sort of the big difference, right?
Yeah, I think so. But Chris, like just the example you linked in the chat, couldn't you just write on data, like just flip them around, just add the data first and then call pause, and just say like this is what we do now? I haven't seen much code that does what you're doing, what you posted there, like calling pause and then calling on data.
I don't think there's anybody that like explicitly does this. I think it's more of a like I just received a stream and I'm going to do this like on data thing to it, and I have certain expectations set up for how it acts.
Mm-hmm.
So
well, it's kind of interesting because if you do that, then what you can do is if you add a readable listen to the readable event, you can actually kind of passively listen to the data when it goes by. But I think that's probably the only use case for it.
Yep, I think so.
I think it's
also worth. Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just saying. I think it's worth investigating if we just supported the implicitly flowing, like basically what I said, just calling resume every time you attach a data listener, and then don't support the case that Chris posted, the pause and on data. Just say if you do that, flip them around. Just do on data first and then call pause, which is more natural anyway. Then we wouldn't have that weird state. That's like just. I mean, we just spent 20 minutes trying to describe the state, and it's so weird that it's almost impossible to describe anyways. But yeah, it would be a breaking change. So.
Okay. So what we have down for action items for that is to explore what doing that would break. And I think probably the best way to do that is just grab dependents of through on NPM and run their tests against a patched readable stream. So if no one's interested in that, I can take that on. And to actually note that we're +1 on adding a isFlowing method to readable stream, and move the isPause documentation. Sound good?
I think we're all good.
Yeah.
On that sort of like testing stuff side, this is definitely like future tech or whatever, but we should see if Isaac could give us a list of every package that relies on streams, and see if the build team would be able to like basically run cross-implementation tests to see whose tests break for each of these modules. This is definitely something like in the future, but it's really like the only way to be that confident that if we want to do something big that it's not going to break the whole world, right?
Michael, couldn't you do that already? There's the dependent view on npm that you can just pull out, and you could just like list dependents of readable stream. I guess you couldn't do it for like just a core stream, but the readable stream you could do it.
Yeah, but you want it for the core stream, right? Like I think readable stream we know a lot more about. I mean, like there's a lot of people using the older stream stuff still, though. And in particular, I'm worried about the people that had built for Stream 1 interacting with like readable stream people and this new implementation of streams. So.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Okay, so I've got all that noted. I will actually add that to the action items, like ask Isaac for really awesome code search from npm. That's easy. That'll be easy.
and then see if Rod can help us build out like the infrastructure to do all this.
I know he's got something called BNT for testing one library against different versions of Node, which would be very, very handy for that exact purpose, and in general handy for the TC, because then it's a lot easier to actually physically see the results of a breaking change than it is to sort of puzzle over it. Makes it a much more tangible experience.
Right, right. I guess the only added complexity here is that if somebody requires readable stream, you actually also want to swap that out for the latest version of readable stream, or whatever new branched version that we have in core that's actually a vendored readable stream, right?
Definitely. Okay, so that's all of our agenda items for today. We're actually just now running out of time. So unless anybody's got anything else, thanks for participating, and yeah, I will schedule the next time and try to get Rod in as well, and like pick a better time for Sam as well.
I don't know if that will. I don't know if that'll work. Just because I'm on a completely different time zone to you guys.
Everyone's on a different time zone. I mean, the time that seems to be working for the TC is 2 p.m. Because we have to stretch Australia, America, Europe, and Russia. So basically impossible. It's impossible. But like 2 p.m. was like 2 p.m. EST, which is actually 11 a.m. PST. That seemed to be the one that worked.
Cool.
I'm not sure what time that is GMT, but I'll find out.
So for next time, I will put up another issue, and we'll run it like this. Thanks, everybody, for your participation, and I will PR the notes into the repo. So thanks, all.
Thanks. It was great meeting you guys.
Likewise.